Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of NES Remix 2 for the Nintendo Wii U eShop download. So, last time we did manage to completely done with the forms of Remix 2 set of stages, and today for this episode, is the fact that we're about to be taking on and just managed to tackle through the bonus stages. So even then though, with that being said, there are some Rainbow Stars that are actually missing out on Remix 2 set of stages, but then as soon as whenever we get to the actual next uploading, which I'm actually going to be honest with you for this point guys, is that originally this was supposed to be uploaded during the likes of Tuesday, but I've decided for this week in particular, which is today is the forms of the 22nd of July today, so I've thought to myself I might as well able to actually switch things up a bit, because even then, well eventually until next week it'll go back into its normal state, because next to the forms of Super Mario Party Let's Play, which me and Pinkie Pie still need to finish up with, and especially noticeable with NES Remix 2 before whenever we get to any other current Let's Plays we are still currently doing. So that's the reason why we decided able to change things up a bit for this week, because even then though, we've decided able to go through any other uploads in NES Remix 2 in the forms of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for now on anyway though, for the sake of the forms of this week. But then until next week, everything's gone back into normal states, like, because in particular speaking, that definitely we're able to actually get onto more of those uploads of Super Mario Galaxy 2 until at some point in Tuesday and Thursday for this week. So even then though, but then again, until next week, everything will be back into its normal schedule department. So because of this though, I just want to classify for this little brief update for this point guys, because we really want to get both Super Mario Party Let's Play and NES Remix 2 finished in time before anything else will happen. So even then though, as you can see on the first stage, we're actually going to be playing Super Mario Bros. 3, and for that particular stage, it actually makes a throwback to the original game, because even then, the actual layout somewhat a little bit feels a bit too similar for that particular first game, but the only major difference is that obviously you're playing through Super Mario Bros. 3 style. So even then though, the guy almost feels like that was before when Mario Maker was a thing, especially with Super Mario Maker 2. But the biggest difference is the fact that well, you can't able to actually switch between, Super Mario Bros. And especially noticeable in Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and New Super Mario Bros. U. So I thought it was worth mentioning. So as you can see on Stage 2, and especially noticeable in Stage 3 at this point, we're actually going to be playing through the new game on NES Remix 2, which appears to be ice hockey apparently, because as far as I'm aware, it's going to be another one of those sporting NES games that we actually consider getting on that specific time. So even then though, as far as whenever I first experienced ice hockey though, not by much until when this game came around, NES Remix 2. But after I played for about a whole bunch of hours back then, oh my god, it feels really arcadic, because even then, I found the controls in that game extremely stiff, and especially noticeable it's a little bit, as I said before, it's way too arcadic, especially whenever you're trying to pass to your teammates and all that stuff, because I think the reason the issue with this is because I think I'm used to with Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, and especially noticeable with Sochi 2014 installment from, for the actual Nintendo Wii, especially noticeable for the Wii U especially, because passing between each teammate is actually really easy on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games franchise, but that's not the case here unfortunately though, because, Okay, so jump cut right there. Yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this for this game, because it just feels way too archaic, because even then, I can never seem to bypass the second section, because the second section always gives me a hard time for some reason, because most of the time, well, the passing between teammates is never really that easy enough as it is, but since we passed through that, then we can able to continue things on. So even then, and then, as far as what I can gather is the fact that whenever I'm missing out on one star in particular, then I'll able to actually come back for it at the very end of for the sake of this video. So even then, you probably get the idea of how this is going. So anyways, let's go ahead and steal the plank or the puck even, and we'll go ahead and try to score a goal from that specific thing right there. Yeah, the whole entire gameplay of ice hockey is very simple and self-explanatory. Basically, we need to base the actual opponents onto that specific goal, and that's really about it with the actual gameplay of this game. So even though nothing particularly special about it, it's just a very simple standard ice hockey game. So let's see. Ah, dang it! 1 star off. I think I spent way too long on that last section, so... But then again, I will promise I'll be back for more on that until whenever we get to, you know, the proper 3-star rankings on that part. So even though, let's move on to stage number 4, which we now have the returning Dr. Mario. And this time, we need to annihilate every single of those moving viruses. In fact, there are 4 of them all in all. But what makes this a little bit tricky and difficult is the fact that since if you really want to try to be expert on this game, like, I'm the only exception, mind you, because even then I wasn't really masterful at it, but it just may actually take me a lot of practice, even because, well, if you really want to go for rainbow stars on that particular game, especially notable in the majority of Dr. Mario itself, well, you need to be able to be fast and a little bit more accurate at the same time, because most of the time, you'll get a lot of errors and several mistakes like this. So... yeah, definitely a little bit trickier than New Forms of How It Does It from the... I think last time we actually did done the Moving Virus Challenge, it was the fact that it was actually in the very beginning. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about the solutions for that part right there. So yeah, if you couldn't tell with the actual jump cut right there, just because, holy macaroni, it just gets so many times I just always get a lot of trial and error on this particular objective, because I understand because of the challenge, but it's so hard to able to actually just get a little bit more accurate when it comes to, like, you know, trying to eliminate all of the moving viruses at the same time. I guess the only best strategy for this is to able to block them, but even then, aside from that though, I just rarely able to actually just manage to able to get the effect in on that. So even then, if you manage to able to actually just trying to able to block the actual virus though, if you manage to able to get yourselves the best of luck out of it, well, thankfully for you, you were able to actually trap it, and then, well, that'll be the ideal way to do so, because unlike the, well, for the first time we've ever done this was actually in, I believe it's on Remakes 2 or Remakes 1 instead of stages, where we only have to do it just one moving virus, and that's all you have to really do about that, so... But anyways, we're done with that, so let's move on to stage 5, where we once again going back into ice hockey again. And this time we need to win a penalty shootout. So even then though, what we need to do is just basically we need to beat, well, the actual team itself. So even then though, I think this is actually like a Denmark team or Finland team or something like that. I haven't really looked upon the actual too much flags in that department right there. So, yeah, all you have to do is basically you have to win this particular penalty shootout. However, the one thing I have to admit though right away for this point is that these controls, and I think I've already mentioned about this briefly, is not that perfect. Because most of the time, if you really want to able to avoid your team at all costs, well, sometimes though you're able to actually get yourselves tackled for about a few seconds noticing. So even then though, that's every now and then, I think this might be the second weakest game, I think I might as well say that right now, for NES Remakes 2 I've ever played so far. Because, compared to the forms of the first game, they had a lot of, you know, sports games on NES Remakes 1, but that's not too noticeable in NES Remakes 2, regrettably, but then again, it just gets a little bit archaic when it comes to, like, controls and all that stuff. So even then, you probably get the idea of how this is going. So, although it's kind of impressive back in the day, but since overall we're in 2019, it just gets a little bit old school and archaic, and I didn't get 3 stars in that particular run, but that's okay though, because we'll be back onto that whenever we get to the very end of this video. So, anyways, let's move on to stage 6, where we're going back onto Super Mario Bros. 3, and I believe this is going to be majority of the Hammer Bros. Suit, in this case the most very rare power-up in Super Mario Bros. 3. So basically we can do all sorts of things with the Hammer Bros. Suit, like, you know, just about to be killing everything, like boos, and lava bubbles, and even thwomps. I mean, just about everything. Everything. And then plus, if you duck right there, you can able to block with your projectiles. I mean, the only problem with this power-up though is that it's incredibly rare. At least if you remember playing the original Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES, or especially noticeable on the All-Stars version, so... And there's also the Game Boy Advance version, but that's besides the point. So yeah, I found that objectively not that bad though. It's pretty easy for the most part though, if you're mostly used to with, you know, the Hammer Bros doing all that stuff. So next up we have in stage 7, where once again, very much like how I did on Remakes 2 set of stages, where basically we're actually going to be on to Metroid once again, and also, not to mention, we're still in Zero Suit Samus formation, and basically in this one is the fact that we need to get to the door, and while you're able to automatically run at the same time. So even then though, definitely a little bit trickier than the likes of how it does it on last time, and I seem to forgot to notice I need to able to activate the door first. Oh jeez. I keep on thinking of the Forms of Remakes 2 challenge though, for some odd reason, but at least this doesn't take me that much long to able to actually get to it, but even then though, it's just a little bit of a, well, almost feels like a Sonic 06 Mark Speed sections most of the time. So yeah, I said this before already, since the very beginning of this video, is that, well, for this week is the fact that I just got trapped right there. Anyways though, so yeah, as I said before, that for the majority of the uploads on the NES Remix 2 at this point for this week, I'm actually going to be able to switch things over a bit, as I said before. So even then, these will be uploaded on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for this week. But until it gets to the point until next week, it'll go back into its normal, like Mario Galaxy 2 will be on Monday, Wednesday, and all that. But we're not going to continue on with next Friday, because even then, until like next Friday, it will be the upcoming Let's Play Marathon once again. So even then, we're really hoping we can do a Castlevania marathon or something until whenever we manage to able to realize that we actually got the anniversary collection of it now, especially notable with you know, the duology games on you know, the PlayStation 4 and stuff, like, you know, Rondo of Blood, and especially noticeable in Symphony of the Night, but even then, that's as far as I can usually tell about this. So here we go on to stage 8, where basically we're going on to Super Mario Bros. 3 again, but obviously this takes place in World 2- Sinking Sand Hole, apparently. And basically we're getting chased by the angry sun, but at the same time, it's all dark. So even then, we need to be able to be very careful with all kinds of enemies, especially notable with these jumping paratroopers right there, which I always having a hard time trying to dodge these guys, because at least unlike in the Angry Sun though, at least compared to the forms of the most recent appearance on the Angry Sun, which is on, you know, Super Mario Maker 2, at least I felt like it's kind of hard to able to get used to with this specific stuff, and looks like I got trapped inside the sinking sand hole, so we'll just have to like kill myself right there. And yeah, this is what the game over looks like. So basically you get you know, 3 points after when you get a game over, but if you use the continue, do not use it, because if you manage to use that, then one of your stars will be taken. So yeah, definitely not recommend you use the continue though, because like the ones and how it does in the first game, where basically your stars were able to actually decrease by 1. So just want to warn you about that, because even then though, that just gives us a little bit more disadvantage when it comes to 100% for almost everything for this throughout. So yeah, definitely not recommend you do that. So anyways, let's go ahead and activate that block, and we are done with stage 8. And conveniently enough though, this will be a definition of the rainbow stars, because if you manage to speed things up on that level though, then you were able to do it just fine. So yeah, you probably get the idea for that part. So anyways, stage 9, where once again we are going back into ice hockey once again, but this time around though, score first in the overtime. So even then though, definitely a little bit tricky though, because even then though, since I just realized it's actually a sudden death match, so yeah, because even then though, that's each team managed to have ourselves 3 scores each. So yeah, we definitely need to score on that one though. But of course, the biggest issue with this is, to me though, is the actual controls, and even especially noticeable how archaic this is, because, well, I just can't seem to able to get the grips with this though. It wasn't until in 2009 where my interest with the ice hockey will really start to shine with, you know, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver 2010, both on the Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS version, although despite that on the Nintendo DS version, it allows you to only use the stylus on that specific event, which I will say, it will be kind of annoying though on the DS version of ice hockey, but at least I'll take the Wii version any day, due to you can able to use either the Wiimote on its own, or you can able to actually use my personal preferred method, which is of course the Wiimote and Nunchuck combo, because that way it just makes it very, very simple and easy to able to actually just do Grims with. So because of this though, that's the thing I really liked about the forms of, you know, the Wiimote and Nunchuck combo sometimes, because even then, well, it's most likely mandatory for most other Nintendo Wii games nowadays, especially both Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and all that stuff. Alright, so here we go with stage number 10, where basically we have the returning of the, well, just the actual compilation on certain challenges. So even then, I have no idea I have to restart right there, because, well, first I thought I was going to be able to think of something else for the time, so yeah. So in these compilations is basically we got ourselves Defeat Luigi from Super Mario Bros. 3's Versus match, and gotta think about it, for that particular room right there, it looks very similar to the ones how it does in Super Mario Run, where in one of those bonus challenges, if you manage to achieve the actual tickets and all that, even with the Toad Rally tickets and all that stuff, even coins especially, that does remind me of that. And also at the same time, you need to watch out for those fireballs, because the fireballs will, you know, essentially kill you instantly, so... And once again, oh, okay, I'll take it. Take that, Luigi, with all his fireballs. I'm guessing year of Luigi was practically over by this point. And here we go on Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, where everything is going a little bit more drug-related, so because of this though, the actual screen itself goes a little bit wibbly-wobbly most of the time, so even then we need to do extremely careful timing with your jumps or what have you, because even then if you do that, then you would pass it. Anyways, next up is Super Mario Bros. 3, which takes place in World Age-2, because I say that because of the actual environment and stuff, what I've recognized. And basically, we need to grab about 5 coins on these note block sections. So, it's not too bad though, but then again, if you manage to mess up with your timing and stuff sometimes, mainly with the running startup point, sometimes for the love of God, I just keep on messing things up on that section. But I believe if I remember correctly, the last section is going to be something related to Kirby's Adventure. So even then though, because of this though, we're actually on there right now. Defeat the Nightmare's Power Orb. Which beyond with the power of the Star Rod, so even then that makes it totally obvious for that specific weapon. And also at the same time, we need to avoid the gigantic bullet bill, because much like the ones in one of those challenges in the original Super Mario Bros. Game on NES Remix 1, basically we need to be able to avoid that, because I believe if you accidentally get touched by the giant bullet bill, you instantly kill yourself, or in this case you'll fail the challenge instantly. So, but when you get the hang of it though, especially dodging those little star projectiles, then you will be doing this okay. So even then though, I think that takes care of that particular stage in stage 10. So even then though, once again, rainbow stars and that glorious victoryness. But it wasn't until the later stages though that we can able to actually get into somewhat of a frustrating moment. So even then though, we got ourselves the new stamp, which I think that could give us a hint until, well, whenever we get to the very end of this particular video. So even then though, for now on though, let us move on now to back to Dr. Mario, and this time as you can see on screen, we need to annihilate every single viruses, while at the same time the colors keep on changing. And this time around though, we need to annihilate, I would say, for about 16 viruses now. So even then though, I think this is why the challenge itself, it starts to get really tricky and difficult, because, well, if you manage to able to mess up with your movements or what have you, sometimes again, I just can't seem to manage to work it properly, because even then, well, I'm pretty much used to with Dr. Mario World as of now on the actual iOS, or especially noticeable with the iPhone devices, but most of the time though, it just gets a little bit more cryptic for my taste. But even then, that's besides the point right there, and I have no idea why I just placed that right there. Even though what I meant to place, I don't know if that will work, but even then I will consider this the main factor about this. But then again, if I do fail several times on that specific challenge, then I'll basically just have to do a massive jump cut, and then just go for a successful attempt. So even then, but I'll mention more details about the next video and during the likes of on Wednesday. So even then, I'm probably not going to explain things too much about it. So even then, we'll just consider this main things as a main focus as it is. So, anywho though. So I suppose there's not much else to really say about this, honestly, guys, apart from the fact that we've already, I think Duffy already mentioned about this before, since during the likes of in Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Play. Recently that we've already watched the Lion King remake recently, and after I watched it, and even looking back at it for the second time, I was quite disappointed. And speaking of disappointments, we got ourselves, well, this is actually my successful attempt I'm hoping for this specific, challenge, as you can see right there, because I just cannot for the life of me, can never even bypass this part without even realizing about something about, you know, just trying to able to actually get a lot of concentration right there, especially with the actual movement, or even the actual, well, just the movement in general, just almost attempts to really bugging me most of the time, but even then, though, that's just the only, major, critical thing about it, though, but even then, anyways, though, as I was saying with the films of the Lion King remake, after I watched it for a second time, though, after, like, well, I've managed able to recently watch the animated counterparts not too long ago, I will say, I was quite disappointed now, because, well, for one thing about the films of the originals is so great, even perfect in almost every way, is the fact that they did have a good range of emotions and all that stuff, so I can really tell if Simba was definitely sad, and I can tell where Timon and Pumbaa was actually struggling to able to think of how to able to look after the actual, well, the lion, well, in this case, Simba, mind you, and also, and I suppose this might be some sort of a little bit of a confusing side of things, well, at least from my experience anyway, though, but aside from that, I just think that the live-action remake, every now and then, though, is felt pretty lacking with originality. Well, it does have some slightly different scenes to the table, just like the ones and how it does it on most other live-action movies these days. But aside from that, though, I just really think that at this point that this will be my final live-action Disney movies I'll be seeing for the time being, because I really can't guarantee we're able to see Mulan live-action remake for this point, because, well, I just get a strong feeling they might actually do something a little bit more, a different approach to the side of things, and plus it does have a lacking with any sort of charm to it now, because I just felt incredibly ashamed of whatever when I was pretty hyped to it back in the day, but every now and then, especially since that film has now finally been released on the big screen, I just felt pretty sad and disappointing at the same time, because, well, at least in the original film, it's such a classic, like in 1994, it's just such a beautiful, you know, beautiful film to look at, but in a 2019 remake, though, oh my god, I think this is what the actual point where it starts to get a little bit more, well, pretty lazy. Well, it's not so much to do with laziness or something, but it's just that I just get a strong sense of feeling about the fact that I get a feeling that most of the live-action movies will start to get a little bit more, well, a little bit more too simplistic or something like that. But even then, though, it's hard to explain, just because of how the fact that, well, there's not much else to really tell by that point. So, stage 12, as you can see right there, where we basically go into Warriors Woods once again. And thankfully, though, I managed to do this on the first attempt. So, yeah, pretty awesome. Stage 13, where basically we need to defeat the real, Crid right here, which, this one right here is a fake, so we'll just ignore that. And the ones we need to find right here is the real one. So even then, though, I think the real one should be somewhere at, you know, at the very bottom of the actual, Brimstar Depths or something like that. But even then, and of course it tells us where we're supposed to go, so even then, I don't think, oh, okay, you can still able to use the morph ball on here, but, I just get a strong feeling that, yeah, if you go onto that different section, basically, it'll take you into, it'll just give you a fail, message right there, which is, you know, miss, so. But then again, though, that's just a little bit of nitpicking when it comes to the actual live-action Disney movies nowadays, just the fact that, wow. And also, as far as I'm aware, unlike the ones in Aladdin remake, at least the box office did manage to able to actually increase it up slightly. Sadly, that's not the case on the Lion King remake, sadly, just because of how the fact that, well, not only because it gets sells like a pretty mixed reviews, like specifically, at the moment in Rotten Tomatoes or RottenTomatoes.com, they did manage to able to receive the film, for critics-wise, they did receive it as 55% instead of like the usual 94, or this especially noticeable for almost 100, at least compared to the original. So because of this, though, I think they managed to able to mess up the nostalgia scenes from the original counterpart, though, from the live-action remake, though, because, well, I understand because of how the fact that, well, at least they did something different, but anyway, it's just my little ranting at this point. I hate ranting sometimes. But anyway, so let's move on to stage number 14, where basically it takes place in Punch-Out, and basically we need to beat the likes out of Glass Joe, where basically we need to watch out for his super punches. So, and also at the same time, though, as you can tell, that since he's all in all in white outlines and all that stuff, this means he's actually a lot stronger than the forms of how it does him from, well, the previous time we actually fight him. So even then, that he almost takes all of my health down. But then, you know, you probably get the idea for that specific, worth noting for that. I think this is why the actual challenges itself starts to get a little bit more tricky and difficult now. Especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, I'm not exactly a pure expert at Punch-Out at the moment. But again, it might actually take me a lot of practice if you manage to able to, like, well, concentrate on certain stuff like this. So even then, let's just go ahead and do some continuous dodges and what have you. And, hopefully, everything else will come together. So even then, let's go and punch his stomach and all that stuff. Well, at least as far as the actual body's, punches and all that stuff. So, yeah, I still really think at the end of the day that I think I prefer the originals more. So, yeah. Alright, so, another successful attempt, if you couldn't tell right there, because, holy crap, it took me a lot of tries on that part too, because again, you have to be super dead on with the actual, not only for the sake of dodging stuff, but it's also the fact that, well, you know how the actual damage output is way too much for Glass Joe? In this case, the much more powerful version of Glass Joe. So, yeah, definitely a little bit of a trickier objective or a trickier mission in particular, if only for the fact that you'll be skillful enough. So because of this though, I'm almost gonna die right there, so yeah, I don't know why I just paused it right there, so even then though, let's just go ahead and kick the likes out of him. Come on, there he goes. Okay. Of course, as to be expected, he will come up, so yeah, because I see his body's coming up. So even then, I will just have to like, okay, let's quickly dodge this, and hopefully though, it won't give me so much trouble though, until when I start to realize that, oh, alright, so I think we could able to actually probably do the uppercut, but let's not do that. Okay, I don't know why I keep on pausing there, but hey, at least I managed to able to finish him off with the uppercut. Okay, will he ever come up? Come on. Oh, he's still up. Okay, let's not give up on him yet. Alright, so, alright, he's almost down. Come on. Just want to get this over with. I just really don't want to get this over with, and I still keep on pressing pause for some reason, because... What?! That's not fair. That is really not fair. Ah, jeez, I forgot about the timer system in the, well, not on the actual, the number time thing on the NES Remix 2, but the actual in time on the actual Punch-Out game, so... Oh crap, I did not even notice. But anyway, let's try this again, and hopefully this will be a successful attempt, I'm hoping. Because, well, I think the issue for this is the fact that I wasn't fast enough, so I think that's how it usually explains about this specific stuff. So even then, we'll try this again, and here, there he goes. And he'll get unconscious every once in a while, and will he ever just get up? Of course, he always gets up, so... Oh boy, this will be pretty tough though, especially with, you know, with the actual damage output, if you manage to get punched at least once or twice. Well, if you somehow get, beaten up, or in this case, if you manage to able to get beaten, well, you're able to get mission failed super instantly. Well, you were able to lose your life, so... Anyways though, oh, he get up way too early than I expected. Okay, I guess we have no choice then, other than uppercut, baby! And hopefully though, we did win by TKO. Whew. That was pretty tough though, but then again, that I just did not even notice that. Son of a biscuit! I was off by 1 star left. I think we spent long enough on that specific mission as it is. But then again, we'll be back more into that as soon as we're able to, you know, done with the actual other stages first. So here we go, back into Super Mario Bros. 3 once again. And this one is actually very unique, because all we need to do in this one is the fact that we need to... Actually, let me restart that. So basically, this one is the fact that this obviously takes place in, you know, level 1-2. Because of this, though, we need to do a 1-up chain reaction. So because of this, though, all that you need to be doing is the fact that you need to use the Tanuki power-up, and then basically we need to... Or in this case, the Raccoon Mario, whatever you want to decide to call it. So, personally, I just call it Raccoon Mario, because the only major difference is between, you know, the raccoon suit, especially noticeable with the Tanuki suit, and that was the forms of the overalls and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty easy though if you manage to get a lot of practice on that specific one-up chain reaction going on right there. And speaking of such, we are going back into Dr. Mario once again, and I think this will be the final time we're going to be doing a Dr. Mario stage in one of the bonus stages, but this wasn't exactly the final time we're going to be seeing this though, on the other hand though, because it wasn't until later on though, where, and during the next video actually, I'm not going to explain things too much about it until whenever we get to the very end of this specific video, so even then though, in this particular objective as you can see there, that basically we actually faced off against with a different foe this time, because since last time we actually did beat the likes out of Bodo last time, so instead now we need to face off against with Wario, so kinda reminds me of that particular N64 game called Dr. Mario 64, where basically, if you manage to begin the story mode on that game, where basically it doesn't matter what characters you'll be using, either Dr. Mario or Wario for that matter, you can actually just manage to able to actually beat against with the actual other computer players and stuff like that. Alright, this is getting ridiculous now. It's because of how the fact that, well, I wasn't really super skillful when it comes to Dr. Mario game itself, because even then, well, I understand because this is just a puzzle game of any sort, but, for the love of God, my timing is awful on that part, but, for that department right there. But anyways though, let's try this again, I'm hoping we can able to succeed that, but even then though, if I don't get a Rainbow Star on that one though, it will be way more tedious than ever will be, but even then though, it looks like Wario might get himself the actual, chain reaction right here, so even then though, that, yeah, it kind of reminds me like a two-player, thingy right there, so even then though, well, the only major difference is the fact that, the actual, icon on that center of the picture actually showed up, so, well, looks like Wario's doing way more, better than Bodo does back in, Remake's 2 set of stages, but luckily for me though, since especially noticeable that one of these, capsules or pills managed to able to actually drop down in slightly significant spots, at least thankfully though, I can able to actually just beat him with like, I don't know, something elsewhere, so even then though. But then again, it might actually take me some time to able to actually get used to with this, but then again, it's just that I'm not exactly a huge expert on the forms of Dr. Mario game itself, because, well, it's very classic back in the day, but I just cannot for the life of me, cannot even pull off a single chain reaction on that, because, well, I know it's pretty tough all in all, but then again, it might be missing out much, so even then, we actually did beat the likes out of Wario, and thank God, we got Rainbow Stars on that stage, so there we go, 62 stars, sorry. I was thinking of something else for a moment ago. Anyway, so now let's move on to stage number 17, where basically, I think everything else though is going to be the most likely endurance run-through. Well, specifically, stage 17, we're going back into Super Mario Bros. 3, a good old classic game in my opinion. And basically, in this one, we need to beat every single of those Koopa Lane members, which there are Larry Koopa, Modern Koopa, Wendy Koopa, and also Roy Koopa, and especially noticeable with Iggy Koopa, and I would say Roy Koopa. I think I've already mentioned Roy Koopa, but and also Lemmy Koopa and Ludwig at the very end. So generally speaking, you get the idea with that specific order. So even then though, although Wendy's kind of annoying though, because she actually sent out the actual ring projectiles at you, so there's no way you can able to defend yourself if you're trying to able to actually hit her head. So, ow. Alright, so let's try this again then. Apologize with the actual the lack of commentary for that point, folks, because even then though that once again I ate. Oh, what? Ah, jeez. Sometimes it comes off as really unpredictable sometimes, especially on the third and final hit. Unless if you be quick and fast enough to able to hit her head for about 3 times, you should be okay, but that again is one of those episodes you might able to actually come across into several mistakes like this. So next is Iggy Koopa, and then after Iggy it will be Roy Koopa, where you know Roy Koopa and specifically Ludwig von Koopa, where basically now every time you stomp them their heads, they now actually unleash the actual earthquake attack. So even then though, you have to quickly dodge that, especially because of the fact that if you did not jump at the right time, then you weren't able to get stunned. So yeah, just keep things in mind. Next we have Lemmy Koopa, where he's... seriously? He's pretty pathetic, although sometimes the actual ball projectiles keep on getting my way sometimes, so... Oh well though, we'll try this again. So even then, let's go ahead and deal with him. And seriously? Are you for real, Lemmy Cooper? You just go hop into the wall and then somehow you just not even going to face directly towards me? How pathetic you are. At least I'll take New Super Mario Bros. Wii or New Super Mario Bros. U challenge any day. Neither especially noticeable in Super Mario World boss fight any day because you're pretty much out for the challenge. So, but once you deal with all the Koopalings on that specific challenge, which actually is pretty cool and fun challenge to me though, because I pretty much know exactly what I'm gonna do. But even then, that's as far as I can go for that. Stage 18 is basically we need to go on to Kirby's Adventure once again, and this time it's just a result, rewards. So even then though, thankfully though, there is no life system or anything like that, so it's just a matter of, giving you a multitude of tries until you're able to actually do these sections. So, I think this could be somewhat gives us a hint about the forms of that specific special reward. That, I suppose that, Mickey, and especially noticeable for Daffy Duck, I believe. Or, I don't know, it's been such a quite few, it's been about a year since we last touched upon Kirby games, but even then, we still need to get back onto the Kirby games at some point in the future though. Well, the next game we're going to be focusing on is, Kirby Superstar Ultra from the Nintendo DS. And after that, then we'll move on to Kirby's Adventure Wii, and after that, it will be Kirby Triple Deluxe, and after that, Planet Robobots, and of course, Star Allies. So even then though, that's because of how the fact that I'm most likely focusing on the traditional Kirby platformer games. The only exceptions are, well, obviously Rainbow Paintbrush, because I'm not exactly overly keen on that gameplay aspect, to me though anyway. Oh wow, looks like I'm having a hard time on that specific game of 3 though, but even then, then again, it might take you a lot of tries if you manage to able to do some things like this, but if you manage to successfully do all these stuff at once, then obviously you get yourself a special reward. I think in this particular challenge, all we need to do is basically we need to get those numbers in chronological order. So even then, once we get all that kinds of stuff out of the way, and let's see if we can get this last one. Oh, yeah! And then if you manage to be able to get all the numbers in the order sequence, you get yourselves a very rare special reward, which is 30 extra lives. Which I think it does that too on the future Kirby games at this point, so even then though, it's very standard stuff though, really, so even then though, yeah, it's a very cool challenge, I will give that right away, so even then though, that's a pretty swelling stuff, so... But anyways, we got ourselves 468 stars at the moment, so even then though, we're actually getting pretty close towards the end of the bonus stages. So even then though, let's move on now to... we are back in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and straight off the bat, that was a pretty bad start. So basically, I get a feeling for this one is the fact that this is entirely based off on the alphabetical worlds. So because of this though, basically we need to do all sorts of challenges based off on the special worlds in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. So, stop showing me that little, assistant circular thing right there. That's really annoying. It just gives my distraction. But anyway. But obviously, basically, we need to go through a serious amount of challenges based off on the special worlds in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, basically. So even then, the worlds between worlds A through D, especially noticeable in World 9, which in order to actually get World 9 is the fact that you need to beat all the regular levels in the Lost Levels. But at least in the NES or the Famicom disk system version of the Lost Levels, that in order to actually get to worlds A through D, now you need to beat the game for about 8 times in order to actually get to that particular point, which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. At least thankfully though, in All-Stars version, they did manage to able to actually beat you, let you beat the game once. Bam, it transported you to World A. So yeah, you probably get the idea for that solution here, so... Now, of course, kind of thinking about it, though, this is actually the final time we're going to be seeing Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels as far as the actual challenges as far as I'm concerned. But this is not the most definition final time we're going to be seeing this game yet, because obviously there was actually that one particular Rainbow Star stage in Remix 2 set of stages where I have not even got yet, which we'll get to that into a... at some point in this Wednesday. So even then, though, hopefully we'll get to that point. So even then, though, stupid invisible blocks. Why invisible blocks? I have no idea. Probably because the game might actually decide to troll me sometimes. But either way though, that's besides the point. So anyways, let's go ahead and just hop onto this little green spring. And that was really damn close kind of thing about it. And oh god. Whew, that was pretty close for that part. And even then though, thankfully though, you don't need to worry about the actual extra lives thingy right here. At least unlike I remember back in the original NES Remakes game, where basically in one of the final challenges on the NES Remakes 1 game, that you have to go for a serious amount of challenges in the original Super Mario Bros. Game, where basically you have to go for, I believe it's about like 48 sections or something like that, or I think it's like 44 actually, so even then, that's way too much on that specific challenge right there. Definitely one of the hardest challenges in the entire game for the NES Remakes 1 game. But the biggest difference is now is the fact that we don't need to worry about the extra life system. So all we need to worry about is just the time itself. So even then though, and kind of think about it, when you start this challenge off, basically it just gives us way more time than the forms of how it does it from, you know, from before. Like, it gives us about like 777 seconds, which is not by much, buddy. It's hard to explain because even I know sometimes I just don't know what do I think about this for the time. So anyways, let's hit on to this section here. We need to do a big leaps of faith right there, especially noticeable on this part. And that's as far as I can go for that part. So anyways, let's go ahead and continue. And oh, I messed that jump again. Seriously, you have to do a whole bunch of leaps of faith on that level, because I remember that in Super Mario All-Stars version, where you have to do it, the emphasis on leaps of faith. So, yeah, definitely a little bit more trickier than before, though, aggressively, but even then, though, yeah. But anyway, so let's get the Super Mushroom on the, you know, for that specific castle level, but since I accidentally touched the fire bar, but that's okay, because it allows me to continue. And stupid hammer, bro. I keep on thinking of Fire Bros for some reason, but hey, at least we did manage to... Oh, I forgot about this part. Let's try again. Okay, so... How is this hitbox is super unfair? How is this fair? Okay, come on. Alright, so almost there. I keep on forgetting about that part. Anyway, let's just try this again. Oh, okay. Whew. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump at the right moment, and hopefully we could continue for this point, and whew, there we go. Oh, jeez Louise. Anyway, so let's grab these 2 extra coins from... Oh, that was pretty bad. That was really bad. That was awful with that bounce height with that specific bullet bill jump. But anyways, we did manage to pass that at least, so... Plus we got a plethora of time to able to actually get ourselves, hopefully, for the rainbow stars! No! Ah, the fire bars, why? Why the fire bars exist? Anyway, so let's go and... I just screwed up my jumps. I really still do. In fact, because of the helmet factor, because I'm used to with the future Mario games, specifically the 2D ones, at least I found the actual mid-air controls a lot more fluid, because I understand it's a little bit more stiff in some areas in the forms of the original game, especially noticeable with the lost levels in particular, but then again, it's a minor nitpick. And I remember that C3, it gave me a lot of trouble, because, you know, you have to deal with the wind and stuff, so... And looks like we have ourselves these, the devils themselves, which is of course the Hammer Bros, and basically we need to, you know, defeat 2 of them. So, as long as you be safe, you will be okay, but then again, if you get hit by the hammers themselves, holy crap, you're gonna get hit a lot. So, anyways, let's grab 35 coins on that bonus area on that specific part right there, so even I know I pretty much expected so. And since we got that, so we can continue. Alright, so get to the flagpole, so, yeah. Oh wow, that was really close. Hopefully for this point, guys, that, this Let's Play will be almost finished by this point, so even then, we just want to get this Let's Play over until, you know, the actual Let's Play, or some more Let's Plays we are currently doing, so... Anyways, the final, oh wait, this wasn't the final challenge yet, so that will be for, section number 17, so at least this doesn't take me as long as compared to the forms of how it does it on... Oh, what a... I really can't stand about the fact that why is it fair to make bloopers such a thing when they're in air, so I first thought they were water enemies only, but oh well though. Alright, so let's just go ahead and just be very careful right here, especially on this last part right there. And let's not forget the big baddie Bowser himself, which thankfully is actually pretty easy to dodge though, at least unlike in World H-4. But it just gives me a lot of hard time on that particular run. And the final challenge right there, or the final section on this challenge here, is the fact that we need to go through World 9-4, and basically we need to bypass this part, and it shows this little particular message, which translates to Japanese, because, you know, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels was originally a Japanese-only game for the Famicom Disk System, so... And there we go, I think that pretty much does it for, you know, stage number 19, so even then though, yeah, it's pretty longish. Well, not nearly as long as the final challenge in the original NES Remix game with the Super Mario Bros. Game where you have to grab the serious amounts of super mushrooms or something, because that is insane. Anyways though, stage 20, where basically we have ourselves, I think this is actually the final compilation stages. Because of this though, this time we have 7 sections. So even though the first one we need to defeat is of course these 2 Fire Bros, which they are pretty rare in Super Mario Bros. 3. But it will become incredibly common now, even for the forms of the future installments of the 2D Mario games, of course. But then again though, yeah. So the second part is the fact that we need to basically just defeat Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright. So even though in this case the, I would say the third boss of the game, because even then, oh, okay, I'll take it. I'll take a death. Anyway, so let's just go ahead and just split the actual fried guy into pieces. So even then, by using the actual mushroom itself. And here's the Goomba right here, which basically we need to just, you know, just stab his head. So even then, I'll stab his body. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and just corner him, and, oh my god, the knockback is way too much for this guy. Even because he got himself the actual ball of chain or something, which even then, that must have been super painful, I have to say. Alright, so defeat the Sedge Bro, which basically, oh, god dang it. Although, then again, now is the fact that we now have the hearts on our disposal, so... But at least we did manage to deal with him, though, so defeat Claw Grip, which is basically the 5th boss in, you know, Super Mario Bros. Oh, shoot, I failed on that. I completely forgot if there was a bottomless pit right down there. Anyway, so basically in this guy is the fact that we need to toss these rocks back at him, so... And generally speaking, this is the 5th boss in Super Mario Bros. 2, in this case Super Mario USA. Apparently though, in the original Doki Doki Panic, this guy never existed at all, because instead you're actually fighting against with Mouser for the 3rd time, because I'm pretty sure most of the other fans out there seem to really love able to actually just to realize Mousers and all that stuff, so that's pretty interesting. Now, of course, the final section, as you can see right there, is the fact that we need to defeat the final boss in Kirby's Adventure, which is, potentially speaking, is Nightmare Wizard. So, yeah, because it also reminds me of the Game Boy Advance remake, and especially noticeable with the actual, the final episode, actually, in the Kirby animated TV series, which is, of course, right back at ya, but he usually just calls it Kirby Fright to the Finish. So, but as far as as much as I really enjoyed that specific finale of the TV series, as far as I'm concerned, at least I did manage to enjoy that, so even then, though, that's as far as I can go for that part. It can be pretty tricky sometimes, because even then, though, well, it's not so bad if you manage to get glimpse with it, but most of the time, though, it's just the fact that you would expect that you're able to miss some of your shots most of the time, so even then, though, I think, since that my run is actually pretty rough at the time, so I think I should probably just sacrifice myself, even then, the Star Rush actually gives me some of these invincibility and all that stuff, well, at least for some protection if you manage to go jump almost right close to him, so even then, though, that's a little bit of a, well, usually I just die right there, so that's fine, because I need to, well, I was really hoping I could get the Rainbow Stars on that specific stage right there, but then again, it just might be a little bit more of a coincidence anyway, though, specifically for my runs and stuff, so even then, though, yeah. Alright, so come on, hopefully I can get this finished, and at least the actual battle itself is pretty much epic as to be expected, but even then, that's pretty much off topic for this point. I have no idea why I'm just mentioning about this specific stuff like this, but until when it gets to a point until this Wednesday, hopefully we should be able to actually discuss upon something else. Mainly with the forms of, well, we'll say this right now, after whenever I managed to completely done with the bonus stages, do you remember on the first NES Remix game that Mario did recently tackle through for about a year ago? That he did manage to able to actually go for the Rainbow Star attempts on any other stages, so I feel like I'm gonna do the same thing for NES Remix 2, which that will definitely happen in during the likes of in this with this Wednesday in particular, and especially noticeable whenever we get to the true final parts. Well, not necessarily the final parts of it yet though, because there are some extra parts worth mentioning, especially noticeable just to show off. But from now on though, we are basically done with stage 20. So do I get a rainbow star? I get a thing? Nope, I didn't get a rainbow star on that one, so... Oh well, no big dealio. So even then though, because of this though, I think because of the actual Nightmare Wizard, didn't manage to waste my time on that part. So even then though, and I suppose we actually off by 3 stages so far when it comes to getting every single of those stars so far. So I'll meet you guys back on that successful attempts on, let's just say in stage 3 and stage 14 and stage 5 when it comes to, not only for the sake of 3 stars, but also the Rainbow Stars runs too. So even then I was yeah. Okay, so basically, what I've noticed something is the fact that, if you probably do not notice about the actual audio commentary, it's got a little bit more of a delay or anything like that, then, basically, as far as I can tell, that, successful attempts when it comes to getting us 3 stars, it's not too bad, but then again, if you manage to get the practice on those specific stuff, well, you know, you probably get the idea of how this is going. And plus, if you couldn't tell, this is by far the longest part we've ever come across in NES Remix 2. I'm guessing it's because it has too many emphasis on puzzle games every now and then. But when you get lucky enough, if you manage to able to score on that specific shot just about right there, and basically you get yourselves a rainbow stars on that specific run, and not only that, 3 stars to top it all off. So even then though, that's pretty much it. So even then though, let's move on to stage number 5 then, shall we? Okay, so stage 5, basically, obviously we need to win the penalty shootout. Now, the best strategy in order to actually get 3 stars, even not to mention though, the rainbow stars on this run, is that you need to specifically aim for 3 points without letting the actual teammates get their points. So, because of this though, it's going to be a lot of emphasis on, you know, timing aspect. But sometimes though, my actual pucking shooting was actually a little bit strict with timing aspects sometimes. But even then, it's just a little bit of a coincidence nitpicking part right there. But then again, now you have to be dead on with, not only for the sake of blocking the actual goals and stuff, but it's also the fact that you have to be extremely dead on with some of these, you know, some other shots and what have you. So, but then again, if you manage to score about just only 3 points, then that way you should able to, you know, not only get yourselves 3 stars, but also the rainbow stars here and there too. So even then though, yeah, it's not too noticeable, I don't feel like. So even then though, that's as far as I can usually go for that part. So anyways, let's move on now to the last stage in bonus for now on anyway though. And then yeah, that's as far as I can say. Alright, so stage 14, basically, it's not too noticeable, I don't feel like. But even then though, I think the best strategy for this is to able to knock him off. Well, obviously you still need to do some minor punches or what have you, but as soon as you're able to try to perform his special attack and stuff, this is what the actual real advice to give you. Punch at the right time, and then if you manage to able to knock him out, and if you're lucky enough, until when the actual countdown manages to go up to 10, if it goes up to KO, then I would guarantee that you would able to get yourselves 3 stars, and not only that, the glorious rainbow stars too. So even then though, yeah, that's pretty much it. So even then though, that's pretty much it for any single 3 stars on that department right there. So even then, and once we gather ourselves all these stars in this entire game so far, we actually come across into a final NES game on this particular compilation, which we now have NES Open Tournament Golf, which basically plays out, if you remember from the normal golf game from the original NES Remix 1, but instead of the forms of the actual normal people this time, it was actually the Mario characters, because you can tell on the actual title screen we have Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Daisy included. So even then though, want to classify for that specific stuff, but even then though, there are some rainbow stars we're actually missing out from, but then again, it doesn't really matter, because I'll be doing those and doing the likes of it on Wednesday. So with that being said, we got 60 of those stars in bonus stages as far as I'm concerned with this specific stuff, and yeah, it's not too noticeable, I don't think, because even then though, as soon as we're able to get to the next video, we're able to go back onto the previous NES games we actually been into. Well, I'll save this right now. NES Open Tournament Golf will be until on Friday. Because of this though, I'll end things off here. So join me next time we'll Let's Play NES Remix 2. Here's the fact that we're about to be taking on the Rainbow Star runs on some of these stages we're actually missing out from the previous stages on their previous games. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.